mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sue Ann with DPI. This is a follow-up recording to the W2T Community College Adult High School Program webinar. I will be going through and demonstrating 5 scenarios that you may run across in the implementation of this webinar. Excuse me, the implementation of this W2T information. The first scenario that you might encounter is going to be a student who is still currently enrolled in school but has come to you and said he's going to drop out or she's going to drop out, but you counsel them as stated in our other webinar, and they provide you with the information necessary to validate that they are enrolled in an adult high school program at the community college that you have the agreement with. You are going to transfer these students out of school by going to choose your student, functions, under enrollments, and transfer out of school. This student will be coded as a W2T, Community College Adult High School Program. You may wish here to add some information in your transfer comments. Student has provided verification of enrollment in the program. The date you will use for the withdrawal will be the date that the student provided with that verification. The student is now a W2T. You're going to click Submit. You will then immediately go to the transfer info information for this student under enrollments. You will pick the enrollment that you just created with the W2T. Click on the blue hyperlink for the enrollment date. You will scroll to the bottom and you will complete the dropout data information. Here, you will pick the reason code as Community College Adult High School, and you will go ahead and verify this student as a dropout. Click Submit, and that student is now verified as a dropout. That information is for a student who is still currently enrolled and provides you the information before you withdraw them from school. The second scenario we have is for a student who may have already dropped out this year. Current year, you have a student who you've already withdrawn. Let me go ahead and call one up here. The student was currently already withdrawn this year. Dropout, remember, is done on the previous year. We've coded this student as a W2 back in October, but he's provided us with the information necessary to prove that he is an adult high school program. We are going to go under enrollments, back to that same transfer info screen. For this student, we're going to go to that current enrollment, same as we did for the previous student. Click on the information for that start of enrollment. You are now going to change this exit code from a W2 to a W2T because he is in community college. It is the current school year, the 15-16 school year when this policy took effect. You're going to go ahead and verify the student as a dropout under the dropout data information. The dropout reason is going to be community college high school, and you're going to check the dropout verification and submit. So this is for information for a student or students who are in the current year. That's scenario A. We have scenario B, which we have a student who left during the previous school year. So let me call up one of those students. Let's call up Matthew Church. Now keep in mind that this is a student who left in the previous school year. The W2T exit code cannot be used before the 2015-16 school year, and students have 1 calendar year from leaving school to verify that enrollment in a community college adult high school program. So we have searched for the student using the /. We are now going to re-enroll this student in school. So we're going to go down under enrollment, click on functions, and we're actually going to re-enroll the student in school. Now you want to be very aware that your enrollment date and your withdrawal date for this student are going to be exactly the same. We are going to treat this student like a no-show for this current enrollment. So your entry code, since it is a previous school year, is going to be E1. Your enrollment comment may be something like a student in a re-enrolled for adult program. Adult high school program. You want to make sure that you go ahead and complete all the information necessary on this page. And for restore class enrollments, we always want to say no. And we're going to click submit. Immediately, you are going to turn right around and transfer that student out of school. So you've got your enrollment for this current school year. You're going to go to the transfer info. You're going to go to functions. You're going to transfer that student out of school. Now keep in mind that his withdrawal date is going to be the same as his enrollment date so that he processes as a no-show. He is now going to be a dropout as a W2T. Click submit. Immediately, you want to go to that transfer info screen. You want to pick the record that you've just created, your enrollment and your withdrawal. Notice that the enrollment date and the exit date are exactly the same date. We're going to click on the hyperlink. We're going to scroll to the bottom, and we're actually going to verify this student now as a community college adult high school program and click submit. If you'll notice on the student's transfer info screen, they have the W2, they now have the W2T, which is stating that they were a withdrawal, they're now in a community college high school program. Dr. Gaddis will use this W2T to adjust your dropout information. He will have more of that information in his documentation starting next year when this information applies to those students. That's case 2. A student withdrew in a previous year, has provided you with the documentation within 1 calendar year that they are now in the program. Keep in mind that these students must provide you with continuous verification that they are enrolled from semester to semester or quarter to quarter. Third situation we have is a student who was enrolled in the community college adult high school program, but the student failed to complete the program by June 30th of their 5th year cohort graduation. Note that the 5th year cohort graduation is the year of 9th grade entry plus 5 years. So you want to be aware of that. The student has 5 years to complete. So we have a student. Call up another student. So this student has been enrolled in this adult high school program. They were a W2T for this. In this case, right here we have a W2. So what we're going to do is we are going to re-enroll this student, in this case, functions, re-enroll in school. They're going to be in E1 because it's a different year, full-time equivalency. Today's date, we're going to restore the records classes, no. We're going to automatically go to functions and transfer this student out of school using the same date, W2T. Now, at some point along the way, this student has said that they've not continued enrollment. However, you verify that information with the community college, with the student, that's up to the school. In a case like this, when the student has not completed by June 30th of their 5th year cohort graduation, the adult program, you have to change their information. So you will re-enroll this student into school. And this case is going to be a little different. This student happens to have the same entry and withdrawal date, but your entry code is either going to be an E1 if it's an initial enrollment in a new school year, or if they do not continue the enrollment in that current school year, their re-enrollment code is going to be an R6, which is a previous W2. So in this case, I'm going to say this student's re-enrollment is an R6. Make myself a note. I'm going to say re-enrolling to change dropout status from W2T to W2. Student did not complete program in 5 years. Full time, am I going to restore class enrollments? No. And I'm going to submit. I am immediately going to go back to functions, transfer this student out of school. Did not complete program in 5 years. Entry and withdrawal date is going to be exactly the same. And in this case, the student is now a W2. The student had been a W2T, did not complete the program within the slotted 5 years or with their 5th year cohort from the date of their 9th grade entry date, so they now have to be turned back into a W2. We submit this information. We go immediately to the transfer info screen. We click on that enrollment date, scroll to the bottom, student dropout reason, whatever the dropout reason. Did they not finish? Did they just failure to return after long-term suspension, which wouldn't apply, but maybe attendance because they did not attend as they were supposed to. Verify them as a dropout and click submit. So this student is a student who did not complete in 5 years. So you would change them back from a W2T to a W2 with an enrollment date, either R6 within the same year or E1 within a previous year. Make their dropout date the same as their enrollment date using a W2 and verify that student as a dropout now. Case D. We have a student who failed to provide continuous documentation of enrollment. So it's basically the same process as the one who did not finish within 5 years. This student is now a dropout. So we take a student, you return to the start page here, and get a student. Remember, I'm searching for all of these students with a / because they are withdrawn students. Student is transferred out. I'm going to scroll down to my enrollments, go to functions, and I'm going to re-enroll this student into school. Entry code again will be either E1 if it's a new year, or an R6 if it's in the current year because the student was a previous W2. So we're going to say this one is an E1. Again, I probably would make myself a note if I could spell. Full-time equivalency. Are we going to restore enrollments? No, and we're going to submit. Immediately go to functions, transfer this student out of school. Same date as your enrollment date because we want to process these students as a no-show. They are now going to be a W2 because they've not provided you with the proper documentation that they need to maintain that W2T status. We'll click Submit, go immediately to the Transfer Info screen, click on that top enrollment line, and go ahead and process these students. Again, I'm just going to say attendance, and click Verify Dropout. So we have a student who did not finish within the current 5 years that's allotted. We have a student who did not finish because they did not maintain continuous enrollment. We now have a student who actually entered the program, is continuing the program, providing you with everything that's necessary to maintain that enrollment and the status of a W2T, and they are actually finishing and graduating. So we have a student. Let me call up another student. Sorry about that. Well, maybe we'll do this in just a second. Kyle Gregory. He was entered into the program. He was a status of a W2T. I'm going to go ahead and just change his status here so that you can see this in the long run. So once I've got him enrolled as a W2T, we're going to go to Functions. We're going to re-enroll this student into school. Entry code, again, will either be an E1 or an R6, depending on current year or new year. Let's say this one is an R6. He's finished. Community College Adult High School program, graduating. Full-time equivalency. Restore courses, no, and click Submit. Again, immediately we're going to go back to Functions, and we're going to transfer him out of school. Making myself a note. He completed the program. Entry date and exit date are going to be exactly the same. But in this case, his exit code is going to be a W6 because he actually has maintained continuous enrollment and he has completed the Community College Adult High School program and is actually physically graduating. Click Submit. From here, You're going to stay on this one student. You're going to go over under the North Carolina information, the NC information, and click on academics. Once you've reached this academics page, you are going to go ahead and complete all information the same as you would for any student who is graduating, making sure that some of the main things you complete are your diploma granted date, your diploma issued date, your diploma type should read first Future Ready Core. Any other information that needs to be completed for this student, you want to be sure and do that, and click Submit. This is the process that you would use for a student who has actually graduated, completed the program, and graduated. Those are the 5 scenarios that we have for you. One is if the student is currently enrolled and you get the verification information before you withdraw him. Just automatically code him as a W2 and then go verify him as a dropout. Current year student who's already dropped out, let's say he dropped out in September, but in December he provides you with the documentation that he's going to be enrolled in a program, you can just go back to his transfer entry information and change his W2 to a W2T and verify him as a dropout. For your other 3 cases, 2 which you will code as a W2, a case where a student did not complete the program with his 5-year cohort, you're going to enroll that student with either an R6 or an E1. You're going to withdraw that student as a W2, go back to the transfer info screen and verify the dropout. Next scenario is a student did not provide you with continuous enrollment. You'll re-enroll that student using either an R6 or an E1. Immediately withdraw that student using a W2 and then verify from the transfer info screen as a dropout. Last scenario is when a student who has maintained continuous enrollment, completes the program, and is graduating. You will re-enroll that student either with an R6 or an E1. You will withdraw that student using a W6 because they've graduated. You will then go to the North Carolina information of academics for this student and complete that page just as you would for any other student graduating and click Submit. If you have any questions, please send all questions to the home-based support center so that they can be forwarded on. This is functionality. If you have policy questions, this webinar and the previous webinar will be posted, and hopefully Deborah Williams will be able to answer any policy questions that you might have. Thanks, and have a great day.